Welcome back to the 2015 North American World Championship Qualifier. We are in round 7 out of 9, 2/3 of the way there. And both of these duelists, Tyler Morris and Michael Watson, have just taken their first loss in the last round. So, 5-1 record halfway through the 12 rounds. That's not too bad. If you only lose one match in each half of the tournament, that's still a strong case for making the top 64.
That's right.
We are cutting to top 64 here.
That's right. But after this round, only one of them can maintain that single loss, unless it's a draw, obviously.
I don't think they really want to draw.
No,
because once you start getting into draws, it's kind of messy.
Yep, that would be less than ideal as well.
Basically, you can't lose even if you get the draw, because X2 and 1, probably not going to make it. We had a number of players at the last event who had that exact record, and not all of them made it.
There's over 2,000 players, so it's going to be a tight cut to the top 64. But Tyler Morris is hoping to make it there with his Burning Abyss deck, as Michael Watson, who is our other player in this round 7 feature match, is hoping to get there with his Satellar Knight deck. Both of these duelists have teched out their decks to try to beat some of the top decks in the format, including Necro's decks.
Lots of traps.
And once again, neither of these duelists are playing against a Necro's deck in this feature match. It just so happens Morris is using 2 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance, which not entirely useless against Watson's 10 spell cards, but Watson is also using 2 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance in his main deck, which is not nearly as effective as against Morris's deck, which only uses 4 spell cards, Raigeki, Foolish Burial, and 2 Mystical Space Typhoons, 2 of which are quick play spell cards and can benefit from being put face down. The general strategy that these duelists are entering the tournament with, that is duelists who use Anti-Spell Fragrance in the main deck in the WCQ, is typically that if they use it against a Necro's deck, the Necro's duelist will need to set their ritual spell card before they're able to activate it on the following turn. Which severely hinders a Necro's deck because it basically takes an extra turn to even summon a monster.
And Watson starts things off with a naturally drawn Satellar Knight Deneb.
As we mentioned earlier, that's always a good card, almost always a good card to start with when you're running a Satellar Knight deck.
And he it's joined by 3 face-down cards. And it's obviously ideal to hard draw the Deneb just in case you are playing against Necros, so you don't have to put reinforcement of the army in the graveyard to get it.
Yes, because that can land you vulnerable to Necros of Trishula.
Like we've got Graph, normal summon. Looks like we've got Skarm, special summon.
Looks like a foil Skarm.
Astral Pack Skarm. 2 are combined for a rank 3 Xyz summon. As it so often is. Against Satellar Knights, Ghost Trick Alucard. He's going to start trying to pick apart the face-down cards of Watson. He does so starting by detaching Graph to target the center card. With 4 cards in hand and 3 copies of Mind Crush in Watson's deck, you would think that maybe he was thinking about it there for a second, but in reality there was nothing to think about. It was just Call of the Haunted.
Yes, with no cards in the graveyard. So, fairly good hit. He takes a Burning Abyss monster from his deck, but it's immediately destroyed by its own effect because Morris controls a non-Burning Abyss monster. It looks like that monster was
Liebig.
Liebig, yes, which special summons a Burning Abyss monster from Morris's hand, and its effect is negated, so it won't self-destruct the way the Liebig did. Instead, Alucard will attack and destroy Deneb, and it looks like Sir, who was special summoned by the Liebig's effect, is attacking directly.
Not a bad start, I'd say.
Not a bad start at all, but now Deneb's in the graveyard. Watson could have...
Yeah, if he had double call.
Yeah, any combination of cards that can really fill up his field. That includes Call of the Haunted, Altair.
Oh, we already know that there's Altair since he had Deneb on turn 1 to go get it.
That's true. So he does. He already has an Altair. So that Deneb is basically where he wants it.
Altair is summoned, and it activates. Deneb is summoned next, and its effect also activates. An interesting choice Michael Watson decking. As he's main decking Chaos Trap Hole. Pretty
Looks like
interesting choice. Don't see that on his deck.
It's a Shadow Imp. Oh no, you're right. That is a Chaos Trap Hole.
What it says, but it's not. Not here. Deneb's effect resolves, and Altair attacks into Seer. Seer summons back Graph. Graph is destroyed. And another Scarm is summoned. Scarm 2 is destroyed because Ghost Trick Alucard's still on the field. And that will let Tyler Morris grab a Fiend, a level 3 Fiend, Dark Fiend, in the end phase. Traditionally, this is used to get the one tour guide of the Underworld out of the deck.
Seems like a likely choice, especially with Alucard on the field and him being unable to actually stick a Burning Abyss monster on the field without losing it to its own self-destruction effect.
Two level 4 monsters are combined to form Abyss Dweller. Unfortunately for Watson, it's got 1,700 attack to Alucard's 1,800. He activates it because that will stop Scarm from activating in the end phase. And the turn is over with the third set card.
Looks like he immediately uses his Abyss Dweller's effect.
And he is also, looks like he's chaining Oasis of Dragon Souls. Morris has Vanity's Emptiness for that. And it is successful. And that really is Chaos Trap Hole.
That certainly is a Chaos Trap Hole.
Not on there.
Yeah, I don't see it there. Maybe that bottomless Trap Hole is supposed to be a Chaos Trap Hole on his deck list.
That could be it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a single.
That's still an error, though.
That is an error.
And when discovered, will result in a game loss.
I'll take a lineup.
That is to be expected.
That has got their paperwork filled out. The first 6 players in my line for the last public event of the night. This is a starter
Deneb,
tournament.
normal summon,
Your choice of
searches
one of
out
5
Stone
decks
Knight
we have up
Unukul
here.
High.
But you have to have your paperwork filled out. $10 directly in front of you.
And he sets another card. Alucard is now out of Xyz materials, but Vanity's Emptiness is still on the field. Deneb takes it out, and a monster is set face down, along with another Speller Trap.
Watson appears to be in a tough spot here. He's staring down the 1900 attack Alucard, but more importantly, he can't special summon.
Oh, on the plus side, neither can Morris, for multiple reasons.
That's true, but Morris has the stronger monster here. That player typically has the upper hand when Vanity's Emptiness is face up.
Unukul High will tie with Alucard, though.
That's
Question
right,
is, do you want to
18,
crash
right?
it, or do you want to try to flip up whatever that face-down monster is, which is most likely a Burning Abyss, and just get it in the graveyard?
What if it's a Scarm?
It'll go to the graveyard.
Oh, you're right, because it flips face up and
Right.
destroys itself with its own effect. You're right. Yeah, so he really kind of threw away his Vanity's Emptiness by setting it, right?
Debatable. I mean, it is going to go. He's going to lose that monster in the Vanity's Emptiness. But it could be that he's got a plan. In general, though, you don't put something that's a clear liability to your lockdown card on the field at the same time.
But you are right. Alucard has 1,800 attack points, right? So it would tie with Unukul High
Right.
in any case.
Watson looked like he was going to attack, but it seems that he's not. And instead, Morris is going to attack. And I really think that you wanted to attack with Unokai there.
Yeah, there's certainly no reason to give Morris the option.
Yeah.
That face-down card actually was a Scarm, but as you mentioned, it would just destroy itself by its effect.
And instead, he's going to get Fire-Licked because that left the ability to put 2 Burning Abyss monsters on the field. 3 cards down. That's Mind Crush, Solemn Warning, and Stellar Nova Alpha. The effects get chained up.
Pretty good. So
just Graph.
He'll be using Scarm in the end phase, and he gets the Graph effect now, which special summons a monster from his deck. And
there's Seer.
He had Seer to his field in attack position. That was incredible, that Fire Lake. Looks like Seer attacked directly, and now he gets to use the Scarm's effect in the end phase to add the monster of his choice to his hand.
He picks up Graph. Might as well keep the Burning Abyss train going. Stellar Knight, or Vega, is normal summoned, followed by a special summon of Altair. Altair is activated to try to summon back Deneb, and Morris goes ahead and checks the graveyard.
So Morris should still, well, I want to say he's still in good shape because he has Karma Cut.
Yeah, he's most likely deciding when he's going to use the Karma Cut.
Looks like his opponent is going to use, he has Karma Cut, and is that Phoenix Wind Blast also?
I did not see it in the brief moment it was flipped face up. Question is, do you use Karma Cut on the Deneb once it comes out, or do you go for the Altair on the field and the Altair in the graveyard?
Or do you just wait for an Xyz monster? Is that too late?
I think it... that's a good
Because
question.
if he makes a 3-material Xyz monster, I believe those are all very vulnerable to Karma Cut.
Yes.
So,
however, you have to deal with the possibility of... Like, basically, if you were to be able to summon Triver, he could get the Oasis back and start the loop back up.
that's true. That's a concern.
And instead, he's gone with banishing both copies of Deneb from the graveyard to cut off any future plays.
That's
while
true.
Scoring the own effect, his effect of his own graph.
Okay, so yeah, I think he did the right thing here. Activating it now and banishing that monster.
Altair, that's the third one, added to Watson's hand. And he's going to go ahead and take a look at his extra deck, see what sort of 2-material monsters he might have.
Exciton Knight, actually that wouldn't work anymore now that he discarded, right? It's 3 cards to 3 cards.
Goes with Tsukiyomi.
Gente Tsukiyomi. This card lets him replace his hand with 2 more cards. So
Ditches the Altair since he no longer has anything he wants to revive with it.
looks like a Mind Crush, and can't tell what that other card is.
That's the Mind Crush. Keeps another card in hand.
All right, so Morris combines his 2 monsters. And here comes our hero.
Here's Dante.
Dante, Traveler of the Burning Abyss.
Attaches Seer.
We'll waste no time activating its effect.
1, 2, 3, Regeki, Alec, and Anti-Spell Fragrance. I'll be pretty happy to see the Fragrance in the graveyard. It's going to go straight out of his deck.
It's not a card he wants to draw in this matchup.
Dante attacks into Tsukiyomi. Tsukiyomi has 23 under defense.
Yes.
Match for the 25 Dante can go up to.
It is not.
Main phase 2, he's traded for Downward Edition, and Skarm, which was brought back by Seer, bites the dust.
Yes, so in his end phase, he gets another search. Has he been through Tour Guide yet?
No, but I think he's got another discard trap down there. So he's going to keep the train going.
Yes, so he can use that discard trap to discard the Sir, and then
Get the
use
Scar
its
back.
effect to get the
That
Scar
goes
back,
to the
and
graveyard.
maybe next time he'll get Tour Guide.
So on and so forth.
He can really keep this going for as long as he has
As long as he
discard
needs to.
cards. Yeah, and when he's out of stuff to that discard from his hand, he can finally take that Tour Guide and capitalize on the fact that it would enable him to summon a monster, a Burning Abyss monster from his deck that would not destroy itself as a result of that Downward Magician or any non-Burning Abyss monster being on the field.
Looks like Watson has just picked up Reinforcement of the Army to go with Qualifier. Goes and plays Reinforcement of the Army. Look at Deneb and decides to get it. It's third Deneb, third Altair. It's probably the most Tellar Knights I've seen a deck go through in one duel. Lately, anyway. Sets it face down. That's it for Watson's turn.
Like he attacks the Deneb, and it goes straight to the graveyard.
Downward Magician. At the end of the battle phase, if it attacks or defends, it has to detach a material. In this case, it's Dante, which lets Morris pick up a Burning Abyss card.
And Morris says, sounds good to me. He summons Sir, sends it to the graveyard with its own effect, since Downward Magician is on the field, and that's a non-Burning Abyss monster, then uses his Sir's effect, special summon Dante back from his graveyard in defense mode. With Dante on the field, he's free to summon another Downward Magician. When that Downward Magician detaches to Dante as an Xyz material, he can once again use that Dante's effect. So
That is one of the reasons why people play so many copies of Downward Magician, and Morris is running the full 3. Qualifier is attacked by one Downward Magician.
and there goes the Dante. And here comes the Sir.
Next Downward Magician attacks, and then it's forced to discard its last material.
It's like he has Crush Card Virus in his hand. It's not great here since Watson doesn't have any cards in his
There's
hand
no
or monsters
monsters
on the field. But who knows? Maybe it'll come in handy. But
And Watson's had enough of that game and decides to go on to game 2. So obviously the first thing out in this particular case is going to be anti-spell fragrance. Not a whole lot of spell cards in that game other than the Reinforcements of the Army from Watson. Morris, he's already main decking 2 copies of Mind Crush, and he can actually put a third one in if he wants it. It's a popular choice against decks that search quite a bit, like Tellar Knights, Cliffworts, Necros, all the usual suspects. But in terms of extra spell and trap removal that can actually hit face-down cards, there's not a whole lot of it. He's got his 3rd Mystical Space Typhoon in the side deck. But the thing that kind of confuses me is that he's not using Galaxy Cyclone anywhere on his list. One thing that I've actually grown accustomed to in the last month was the rate at which duelists happily adopted Galaxy Cyclone. It usually takes a lot longer for players to embrace cards that destroy spell and trap cards that aren't named Mystical Space Typhoon. Like, one of the advantages of being the oldest spell and trap destruction card around and the simplest is that a lot of people just don't go past that name when they're thinking about what cards to include for spell and trap destruction. But people picked up on Galaxy Cyclone really quickly, a lot more quickly than I expected. I was pretty pleased with it. It is not appearing in this deck, though. Traps, overall, probably going to say largely the same, other than the anti-spell fragrances. Morris is checking out side again. Actually, it looks like he's taken the Mind Crushes out. Interesting choice. And then again, Mind Crush is more of a card that you want when you're going first, as opposed to when you're going second. So you can stop those searches before they get a chance to be played. But that could be why. He's likely assuming that Watson will choose to go first because he's playing Teller Knights and he wants to set all those other traps without interference. And now it appears that Watson is assembling his deck post side decking for a check. The only reason I can think of to put everything together in the middle of the match. And yes, he's reassembled his deck and handed it off to a judge. It is not likely to go well for him.
Yes, as we saw in the previous duel, he appeared to have a Chaos Trap Hole.
And after it went to the graveyard, we were able to confirm that it was indeed a Chaos Trap Hole. And seeing as the judges have also seen the same deck list that we have during the match, they flagged this as an issue and are going to resolve it as quickly as possible, which will also unfortunately result in the end of the match once they come back with it. General, there basically, if you're wondering what the whole purpose of deck checks is, the goal is to make sure that people are actually playing with the cards that they have on their list. That's the eventual goal. You don't submit a deck list just for fun. When you submit it, that is your pledge and guarantee that these are the cards that you are playing with for this event, and that cannot and will not change throughout the entire event.
Right. Once you create a deck list, you're committed to playing the cards you listed on that deck list. So in order to ensure fair play in the tournament, there are deck checks throughout the tournament to make sure that you're using the cards that you pledged to use in that tournament.
Right.
It's basically a way to ensure that players aren't changing their deck to account for matchups they didn't anticipate initially as they see the tournament progress.
Right. Part of the game, part of the the skill of the game is building your deck ahead of time and anticipating these things and choosing the correct cards before you even get to the tournament.
Right. A lot of players' success is actually determined by the deck they choose to participate with and how adept they are at using that particular deck. And the best deck for one duelist to use isn't necessarily the best deck for another duelist to use, but each duelist should be using a deck they're comfortable with and a deck of cards that they register at the start of the tournament that they're going into the tournament saying, I'm going to win with this deck.
And that's one of the things that comes into play when you're choosing a deck. There's a lot of times where there's, here's this overwhelmingly powerful deck that a lot of people play, like Necros. But a lot of times when you have decks like that, if you know that you're not as comfortable with that strategy and you can't play it as well as somebody else running it, and you think that you're going to play against that deck a lot throughout the entire tournament, it might be in your best interest not to play that deck.
I had actually heard a lot of people tell me that they acknowledged that Necros decks were very powerful, but they basically conceded that they don't know what they're doing. This was mostly when Necros cards were new and Necros decks were new. They're like, I don't really know what I'm doing with the Necros deck, so I decided to just play this deck that I'm comfortable with and I think has a lot of good cards against Necros, and I think I'll be very successful with it. And that's especially a true strategy when a deck is new.
The other thing is, once you get to the point where a deck's been around for a few months and you basically know what everybody else is playing, and Necros is particularly guilty of this because the biggest changes between tournaments are generally in the cards that you use to knock out the June releaser block. Eventually you get to the point where you're almost playing the same 40 cards and it's kind of a coin toss as to who winds up with the better hand for playing that particular matchup. Sometimes it doesn't even matter whether or not you're better because you might not get to play.
Right. A lot of times, though, a very slight difference in your deck construction could determine the outcome of a duel or even a match.
That's basically why people keep changing their Jin outs around, is around whether or not other people are going to run Gungnir, etc.
It's very interesting. There appears to be some sort of snowball effect that frequently occurs by how like one card can have such an impact on a duel, even if it doesn't appear to impact a particular turn too tremendously. The way that turn later impacts future turns, looking back, you can see that, wow, if that card were a different card, that duel would have gone very differently, that match would have gone very differently. So the bottom line is the deck list is very important to ensure fair play in tournaments. Every player must register their deck. But there is also another lesson here. One of the biggest lessons here is it's important to be very careful when registering your deck, because there are a lot of accidental errors.
Yeah.
And if you kind of just rush through your deck list and don't take the time to make sure that it's accurate, you might unknowingly be playing a deck that doesn't match your deck list. And as we may see here, that you could be penalized for doing that, even if it's unintentional and the judges determine it's unintentional, and they determine that a disqualification is not appropriate. There is still a penalty, and you could still receive a game loss for it.
The basic assumption is that everything is unintentional and a mistake, unless an investigation shows otherwise. And
it's an easy mistake to make, because a lot of players are reckless filling out their deck lists. I strongly advise against being reckless filling out your deck list. Because it is so important.
You get lots of time to do it.
Yes, you've had 1 year to prepare for this event, so that's a lot of time to fill out your deck list. WCQ is a once-a-year event. It's important to create the deck list as importantly as it is.
They are random. Now you know that they are truly random. They have no everything should probably be organized probably. So shuffle, caution twice.
All right, so we have some good news for Mike Watson.
And let us just preface this by saying the truth is stranger than fiction.
Yes. It turns out that there are 2 Mike Watsons in the deck, both of whom are using Tellarknight decks.
Both of which are nearly identical.
Slightly different tech cards. And it appears that we had the wrong deck list.
Yep.
So a deck check has been done based on reasonable cause to believe that his deck list was inaccurate. And it looks like there will be no penalty here. He filled out his deck list appropriately. He gave it the time and respect that it deserves. And now we can proceed.
One of the main differences between the two, 3 anti-spell fragrance.
3 anti-spell fragrance in this Michael Watson's deck. And 2 Chaos Trap Holes, appropriately written on his deck list.
All right, so that's where that came from. Good. We can get on with the show.
Yes, so we've identified cause for alarm, and that alarm has been quelled, and we are now ready to proceed.
New Mike Watson is running 10 monsters.
Fewer than the 11 that the old Mike Watson was running.
He's got multiple Vegas here. Vega is kind of an interesting choice. It falls in and out of favor as time goes on. I tend to like having at least one of them available in the deck, because just being able to get something that'll let you summon something else without any other outside influence is pretty helpful, even if it is just Marauding Captain. Marauding Captain has always been useful.
Yes. And Vega's particularly good in Tellarknight decks because of how easily you can add Tellarknights to your hand. So thanks to Deneb and all the ways to summon it. So it's fairly easy to have a monster in your hand to summon with Vega. And since most of them are just easily normal summoned, it's nice to have a monster effect that can special summon an additional monster to help you get monsters onto the field.
So the reason that you usually only see one is because Vega can't summon another copy of itself. So if you have 2 monsters and they're both Vega, you have no plays.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate for Watson if he were to draw 2 Vegas. So Now that this misunderstanding has been sorted out, it looks like we are ready to continue with Duel 2. Unfortunately for Watson, he is down a duel. But the good news is there's no game loss here, no foul play, and he's ready to strike back and try to push this to a third duel.
It looks like he started off with a very powerful card against Burning Abyss. He's got Soul Drain. Prevent the activation of monster effects in the graveyard or that are banished.
Round one was so sketchy because like I had to go like from there all the way over to there. Oh my god, barely made it. It was a year late. I'm like, I don't need this again.
Tyler Morris checking out his hand a bit. Got.
And for those wondering, these two Watsons are different people. They have different Kasi IDs.
Watson starts off with Stellarite Unalkalai. He's going to send Vega to the graveyard. That's a useful play if you already have something like Call of the Haunted in your hand, so you can use Vega's effect at the end of your opponent's turn to summon yet another monster from your hand. Looks like he's actually setting 2 cards, not 3. Plays back to Morris.
Morris starts us off by looks like normal summoning Graph.
Yep.
He's going to then special summon Sir in defense mode by activating its effect.
Next up, 3 face-down cards of his own.
Like Breakthrough Skill, Fire Lake of the Burning Abyss, and was that a Phoenix Wing Wind Blast?
I think it was.
I think it was. So that's interesting that he did that, since he didn't leave any Burning Abyss monsters in his hand.
At the end of the turn, Oasis of Dragon Souls is activated. Maxi is chained, giving him 1 draw. And it looks like Watson has wisely decided not to activate Vega's effect in that case, and instead normal summons the Deneb in his hand. And that gets him an Altair. Watson is running, he's actually running multiples of Oasis of Dragon Souls, just like Call of the Haunted.
Yes. This Watson is running 3 copies of Call of the Haunted and 2 additional copies of Oasis of Dragon Souls. So he went for the 5 special summon suite of crap cards.
All 3 monsters are combined.
Yes, he wasted no time to summon Cribber.
And Breakthrough Skill is activated to negate its effect, but then Forbidden Lance is chained to that. If he wants to rid the field of Trevor, he's going to have to chain one of those other face-down cards. But lets it go, and everything comes back to the hand.
That includes the Oasis of Dragon Souls that Watson can now reuse. So that was a pretty good play for Watson. And his hand appears to be pretty solid here.
Goes for the discard first. Most of the time, I think I like attacking first, just in case I'm going to hit that Burning Abyss monster out of their hand and give them a summon.
Yeah, that seems like it would be a reasonable play. Unless you want to destroy that monster they summon.
Yeah, that's the thing with Burning Abyss monsters, that most of them turn into more monsters.
Yeah, they keep replacing themselves.
Foolish Burial is the card that gets hit, though.
Seems like a good hit, especially knowing that there were 2 Burning Abyss monsters in Morris's hand that he could have hit with the Cribber.
Watson's probably happy about that.
So he normal summons Altair and activates his effect to special summon Deneb from his graveyard.
And I guess the Vega must have been activated after all at the end of Morris's turn to give him 2 draws instead of 1.
Yeah, looks like that is what happened.
Yeah, it had to have happened because he's going to go ahead and get another Altair search, or another Deneb search here.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I saw him draw a card after doing that, so that definitely looks like the sequence that happened. For better or for worse.
Oh, yeah, he lost 800.
terms of strategic planning. Still, despite letting Morris draw those cards, Watson's in good shape here, it looks like.
Yeah, he can get in about 3,800 damage and set up Abyss Dweller. Seems pretty useful in this matchup.
Well, the Trevor lost 800 attack points to Lance.
Oh, right. So 3,000.
But yeah, I mean, just summoning Abyss Dweller here seems pretty good.
You definitely got to get that damage in, though. Abyss Dweller drops. Does indeed appear that he got his 3,000 damage. Oh, wow.
Non-Teller Knight monsters can't attack, right?
Right, that's why you have to attack first. And we actually see the double whammy here. We got Abyss Dweller and Stellar Knight Consular Diamond, which you can put on top of a Stellar Knight Xyz monster.
That's brutal.
Breakthrough skill is activated.
Okay, so
to chain to Abyss Dweller's effect, I believe. Yes. But that still leaves Diamond on the field. But he's got Dark Hole. That'll clear things out in an instant.
Wow, so he went from a virtual lock on his opponent to just getting wiped out by Dark Hole.
Not bad. If you got it, you got it.
Yeah, that was really good for Morris.
Draft normal summons, now that there are no cards left face down. Seer is activated. There are, in fact, Shadow Imprisoning Mirrors and Soul Drain somewhere in the deck.
Yes, but Watson is yet to see one.
Seer is successfully special summoned in defense mode.
That Dark Hole was devastating.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah, he had two very good Xyz monsters that would basically lock down Morris if he couldn't destroy both of them. So.
And a quick check on Triver. Triver does not activate if it's sent to the graveyard as Xyz material. It needs to be sent to the graveyard while it's got Xyz material. Got a quick once over the text, and Triver is returned to the graveyard. And am I incorrect on the text? What exactly is going on? All right, it looks like we're rewinding all the way back to the Dark Hole.
It's literally the only thing like is, yeah, just exactly.
Dark Hole is reactivated again.
Okay.
We encourage you to stay vigilant on all of the items.
I think I see what the problem here was.
And your backpacks.
So Stellar Knight Triver says during the turn you Xyz summon this card, you cannot special summon monsters except Teller Knight monsters. So he could not have summoned the Abyss Dweller in that case.
So were they able to rewind that?
It looks like they did not rewind it at all.
Okay. So I guess there was no way to repair that.
Well, the question is, if there's no way to repair it, is it something that both players are equally at fault for, or has somebody gained a significant advantage out of it, which would change the penalty from a warding back to a game loss?
Looks like they're continuing, so it looks like the judges determined that it was unintentional and there was no severe advantage. So it appears that a warning was issued.
Yeah, that's not an effect that comes up a whole lot of the time.
Yeah.
Because Triver is usually the only monster you summon that turn. Triver and the Diamond on top of it. Diamond is summoned back in defense position. And Altair is summoned as well. Phoenix Wing Windblast is activated in response to Altair's effect to put Soul Drain. Or not Soul Drain. Still deciding. So he's got Phoenix Moon Wind Blast activated, and he's chaining to his own Wind Blast with Fire Lake at the Burning Abyss, getting rid of his own Burning Abyss monsters. Now he does have to get rid of the Soul Drain with one of these effects here, otherwise he'll get nothing. 3 monsters down, or 2 monsters and Chaos Trap Hole down.
Wing Blast puts the Soul Drain on top. The 3 cards are destroyed by the Fire Lake.
Vega is summoned as well from the effect of Altair. And now we've got a new chain going on with Vega's effect, Seer's effect, and Graf's effect. It's Watson's turn right now, so Vega's going to be Chain Link 1, and the other 2 are Chain Link 2 and 3.
A lot going on here.
Unal Kalai is summoned at the resolution of that next chain, and it sends something to the graveyard, slightly out of frame. We'll see when he puts his graveyard back on the map.
So we know that Watson is going to draw Soul Drain. So that
He's actually not going to draw Soul Drain anymore because he used the effect of his Unal Kalai to get it off the top
You're
of the
right.
deck.
He shuffled his deck. Good point. And that appears to be a very good play because he probably doesn't want to draw Soul Drain right now.
Yes.
I mean, it's a great card against the Burning Abyss deck, but not when you have Morris is going to summon a rank 3 monster that Watson can't currently get over. Well, it appears not actually.
Yeah, slight correction, they did manage to rewind that situation. Morris got his breakthrough skill back in the graveyard, and Abyss Trawler went back to the extra deck. Because that is the one copy of Abyss Trawler in Watson's extra deck, and it's back in there because it could not be summoned in the first place.
Okay.
So yeah, that was totally repaired.
Okay, and the situation is not as I had thought it was. But it looks like everything's good here. And fair play has been ensured and will continue.
And Abyss Dweller in this life, much as it was in the last, has been negated by breakthrough skill. And 2 Burning Abyss monsters combined to summon Dante. Its effect is activated, sending 3 cards to the graveyard, Fiend Griefing, Crush card, and a Burning Abyss monster.
Getting that direct attacking with Scarm.
Yeah, Scarm attacks.
Doesn't seem like it'll be particularly relevant.
Like Dante attacked as well and then was changed into Downward Magician, which causes Scarm to blow itself up.
Of course, which explains why he was willing to put it in attack mode.
And he gets Tour Guide of the Underworld, which would be a huge boon next turn.
Yes.
Especially with
For sure.
Watson drawing to 1 card in hand.
Watson draws Book of Moon, sets it face down, and immediately loses it to Morris's Mystical Space Typhoon. And as you predicted, here comes Morris's Tour Guide from the Underworld. So he summons it, activates its effect, and now he's just racking up the monsters.
Yep, in this case, you generally see Seer. The monster's effect on the field is going to be negated, so you can't really go for extra damage with Barber in this case.
Well, whatever he summons, he's probably just going to use to make a rank 3. Probably Dante. And then it attacks to get its effect. So there's not much he can summon with the Graph. He has just chosen to special summon. But he can take Scarm, have it self-destruct, and get that search on the end phase.
Very true.
Or like you mentioned, he could take Barbar.
Oh, there's Barbar. Barbar just got hit off. Oh, wow. Got hit off the Dante effect, which is going to be another 900 damage.
It's piling on.
Assuming that he wants it. He might just not use it.
Looks like he can't win this turn, though.
Yeah, it's interesting. He did not attack with Dante last time around. Or so it appears. He does use the Barber effect, though. That'll be 900.
Yeah, Barbar can banish any Burning Abyss card.
Burning Abyss cards.
So Fire Lake is one of the 3 that he's banishing to deal the 900 points of damage.
This time, Dante definitely attacks for 25.
Yep. Then Downer and Magician follows up.
And that lets Downer detach Dante.
Dante's effect activates, and he adds here from his graveyard to his hand with his Dante's effect.
Not bad, especially when your opponent is drawing to 1 card in hand.
Watson's going to need a fantastic top deck here. And then Morris has also decided to upgrade his Dante into Downer and Magician.
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything that he can pick up here.
How about Altair? Summon Exciton Knight. Well, there's an effect Veiler in Morris's hand, but then he would still have that looming threat of an Exciton Knight in his opponent's battle phase. So he wasn't completely without good top decks, but he just set a card to his back row.
Oh, it's a call.
Is that going to help him? It's certainly not going to help him when his opponent has Mystical Space Typhoon. So Morris activates the Mystical Space Typhoon, destroys the Call of the Haunted in response to its activation, and then direct attacks from both Downer and Magicians finishes Watson off. So that will be Watson's second loss in the tournament, but he's not out of it yet.
Not out of it yet.
There is a top 64 cut, so if he wins the rest of his rounds, he does have a chance of still making it there. But things are looking even better for Tyler Morris, who is now 6-1 and moving on to the 8th round with that record.
Strange end to one of the strangest matches I've ever seen. What with our doubles of Michael Watson.
Yes, that was a very peculiar match, but it looks like everything worked out there. Every error was rewound, and the double deck list peculiarity has been resolved.
Well, that's going to do it for round 7. Round 8 will be up next, but while you're waiting for it, we've got a replay of round 4 for you, so don't go away.